we would dive straight into the issues that made it to the front page of select national newspapers this morning. We'll begin with the Daily Trust. And the major story here is staying with the EFCC probe on the Ministry of Humanitarian. Edu Gates, that's a new one. EFCC greets Zenith, Jaiz, Providos Bank's CEO. It is a routine invitation, says bank officials. PDP demands suspension of Tunji Ojo over 438 million naira contract.
Do you think it's routine?
Routine to the extent that every time
it's quite a coincidence if they're being invited in the middle of all of this mess.
Yeah, the idea is these transactions are not possible without the banks. The question is,
and I think for long the banks have really gone under the radar of some of these investigations because they aid and abet in some cases.
The question,
not saying that they're guilty already, but you can't do this without the banks.
Yeah. The question other people will ask, however, it's that if you basically have an account with me and it's meant to facilitate movements of funds, at what point does the bank wake up to say you can't move this fund, especially coming from a minister? Yes. That would be a hard nut to crack. Moving on to other stories, tension in Plateau as Supreme Court reserves judgment on governorship dispute. I'm not sure it's just Plateau. I think it's Nasarawa.
This week, it's Kano also. Yeah.
Nasarawa. And these are very tight ropes, it could go either way, basically.
Let's hope it goes the right way.
Hopefully.
Whatever that right way is.
What Nigerians are saying essentially is that the ballot should be the beginning
and the end.
To other stories, Nigeria's per capita income to reach pre-pandemic levels in 2025. That is according to the World Bank. And
at least that's good news, right?
Good news. It appears there are some movements, whether they are in the proportions we want, or that's a different thing. Bandits place 50 million ransom on kidnapped FCT district head, 5 others. You'll find the details of that story on page 17. And to the second biggest story on the cover this morning, Niger junta releases Bozum's son 167 days after. Coupists need to do more, according to diplomats. We just had a deep insight into that conversation with our guest before this. And to other stories, Agric Ministry not in charge of rice palliative distribution. So who is? Who are we to believe?
So is there a rice palliative?
Some members of the National Assembly are saying they had not received, but we've seen others distributing. So the question is, where did they get there?
It's not far-fetched for me. We did hear the Senate President, whether he's misspeaking or not, allude to something like this after the confirmation, the screening exercise for the ministers, and he had to take back his words and things like that.
Okay, so sending prayers to the mail.
Yes, exactly. So it's not far-fetched.
Are you saying the rice have also been sent to the mails of the Senate? Well, all right. To other stories, 8 motorists killed in Borno landmine explosion. That's a sad one, given the gains that we have made around Borno.
Interestingly, they said the governor used that road just 2 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope his movement had not been leaked. And tinubu orders reduction of officials on FG trip by 60%. Now my question is, what was it? So that we can track what exactly is 60% reduction.
But 60% is significant.
It is.
Yeah, 60% of anything is significant.
But what you cannot count, you can't measure.
Yeah, you can't measure. Yeah.
So if it used to be 100, perhaps we would be able to tell that if it goes beyond 40, that you're not keeping with, whatever that is. And then we have this promotional picture on the front page of the Trade Minister, Governor Abiodun, inaugurates TGI's $130 million. That's over 130 billion naira vegetable oil and cubes factory in Ogun State. That's a big one. At the time when we're looking for all kinds of investments.
It's one of those big economies right next to Lagos.
And doing nothing other than just sitting next to Lagos and benefiting from those things that can't find space in Lagos. I'm very sorry to say I'm not sure they are product of some strategic economic policies. It's just basically nearness to market. I
would be offended by that if I was from Ogun State. That it's just the geography that is to our advantage.
We need to see if there were infrastructures that were attracting people into this place, then we can clearly say the infrastructures are. If you have been to Ogiri, you would weep.
Okay.
And that's it on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Nothing personal against Ogun State,
no, not at all. I mean, it's a lovely state.
Yeah, exactly. Home to the former president. All right, let's take a look at The front page of the Guardian newspaper for today. Edugate, everybody's captioning it differently. 585 million naira humanitarian scandal. Well, the humanitarian there is
why
in
does
parentheses.
It look like it's the president that is more distressed than the president? The picture suggests that the president is more distressed.
Is there, but I suppose they're trying to make the connection because he did suspend her. Nigerians want probe expanded to other poverty alleviation schemes. And it's indeed a scheme to a certain extent.
Teachers' money, trader money, whatever money they called it at the time.
The conditional cash transfer, all of that. Tinubu slashes official trip expenses, entourage by 60%. Not just for him, his wife, the vice president's wife, and everybody else involved in the federal government. And that's quite commendable. They say it's part of it.
Why are we supposed to categorize the vice president's wife and his wife as official trips, though? You see them flying around with the Air Force One and you wonder.
Yeah, that's true. They're all part of the first family anyway. Nigeria's economy to grow by 3.3% in 2024. 2024, that's good news, especially coming from the World Bank. They haven't given us a good news for quite some time, so we're happy to take that one. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Delta, Plateau, Guba appeals. Army confirms arrest of soldier for insulting Saulu. How about this one? I really did like it, especially because it is out of brand for military personnel to speak like that on social media. Listen, there's no way to sugarcoat what that soldier did. If I were a soldier caught in the wrong act, I wouldn't use my profession as an excuse to get out of a jam like that. He shouldn't have said, I'm a soldier, as if almost to say, I'm allowed to do this, or something like that.
I agree with that totally, but I also find fault with the choice of words by the governor. You know, some of them are not good enough to repeat on a national television, but he was basically insulting that guy. You've caught him for wrongdoing, it's fine. You know, but some of the choice of his words are not dignifying of a governor.
I guess he was emotional, and he always looks like an emotional person.
He does look like one.
But anyway, the Chief of Army Staff confirmed the arrest of some of those soldiers that spoke on social media against what Governor Sanwo-Olu did when he intercepted those traffic violators. So it's not just a soldier, it was other commercial tricycle riders.
I think there was another one by a Legion member. That's an ex-soldier. I'm not sure who would arrest that one. Who also spoke up against how that soldier was treated. Well,
but anyway, they shouldn't get the pass especially when they violate traffic rules. We're all one and equal under the law. Federal government probes private universities over fake degrees. That is following the inauguration of that committee by the Ministry of Education. Nigeria's school leaders free President Bazoum's son and wife. Why is the wife not in that mix? Federal government's pledge to end insecurity yet again. And we still have that picture from Ogun State regarding some economic activities in that state. So that's it on the front page of the Guardian newspaper for today.
All right, we'll move on to Daily Sun. And the Daily Sun is staying with the probe. It says Degree Bazaar. FJ probes private universities. Others. Who are the others? Inaugurates 6-man investigative panel. Vows not to spare culprit. It will be nice to see how all of this ends. To other story, this one beside the name Max Tinubu slashes international domestic travel delegation by 60%. To other stories, court declares Anyanwu as PDP National Secretary. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Mafuang Omoagege Bagi. Kalu drums support for Tinubu, donates security vans to police. Fabura promises to continue with Wike's Eche Igbodo Road project. Is it Wike's or River State's project? Well,
what's that?
Fabura promising to continue with the ex-governor's project. That's basically every project by the ex-governor it's the state's project. It's this whole idea of linking projects to the governors or to people in power, defeats the purpose for this project.
I think while the governor is doing this, Governor Fubara is doing this unity tour, because you get a sense he's trying to bring the state back together. and every opportunity he gets to speak, he wants to unite River State. And I think that's his prerogative at the moment. So he wants to link it to Wike, so Wike's people understand that, listen, we're not fighting anymore. I'm going to even continue your
legacy
the legacy projects of the past administration. So I think he's trying to, extend an olive branch, so to say.
I hope so. Don't listen to sycophants. Reconcile with Wike. Boil off, tells Fabura. Tiwa Savage petitions police, says the video should be held responsible if anything happens to her. I don't get this.
Yeah, it just blindsided me that apparently she's friends with his ex-girlfriend, who happens to also be his the mother of his daughter. And apparently he's not happy with the fact that I think it's all a mix-up situation. So he was going back and forth with her ex, boyfriend or partner, who happens to be the father of her son, and she finally petitioned, said, I think she was threatened in a way. So it's quite unbecoming of people that society look up to in that way.
Interesting. EFCC quizzes detains Betta Edu. Her suspension not enough. This is coming from Atiku. And gunman kills traditional chief in Ogun. Another sad development there from another part of the country. That's it on the front page of the Daily Sun.
All right, before we discuss any of the stories, let's finally take a look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper for today. Leadership newspaper for today. All right, 2023, Supreme Court reserves judgment in Delta Plateau State appeals. Boko Haram burns 6 to death. My goodness. Maims 4 in Borno.
That's outside the explosives.
Yeah, and that's a very disturbing development. World Bank projects Nigeria's growth at 3.3% in 2024. Betta Edu, Zenith Bank clarifies EFCC invite. Cost of governance, Tinubu cuts travel delegation by 60%. There's a lot more from that. And in other news, Shetima tasks Benue leaders on unity and governance. Nasarawa records 75 kidnapped, 83 robbery cases in 1 year. And that just gives you a scale of the insecurity that this state, like many other states, is dealing with. Synagogue Church tackles BBC over documentary. Listen, I'm all for all these investigative pieces, but I don't know, when someone is dead, it's just important for me to speak about it, not to minimize the impact of the documentary or anything.
Yeah,
but it's been 3 years.
I've had to ask myself the same question, and the question for me was, to what end?
Yeah.
And where is the balance?
Exactly.
However,
if someone is not here to defend himself, I think it's really futile. I mean, we can all hate Hitler for what he has done and all the other bad eggs in the past, and not presuming anything guilty about the most revered TB Joshua. But then again, he's not here to defend it.
And the other part, it's the fact that most of the voices on those investigations have actually left the church. So you wonder whether they have an axe to grind with that institution. But like you said, that is not to suggest that the BBC did not do a good job. I think it's a moral question about whether or not we needed to go on with that, considering that the principal suspect in this case, or character in this case, has transited to the great beyond.
3 years now, right?
Yes. Yes, it was
almost 3 years.
The twilight of the COVID-19 incident. We now have in the studio to provide perspective to some of the stories that we have reviewed, the former director of news, Voice of Nigeria, Mr. Ben Shaman.
Mr. Ben, good morning.
I thought to solidarize with.
Was there a memo that I didn't get?
I'm not sure.
It looks like you two are in sync with the caps.
Well, I wanted.
Although that is from Benue, I can tell.
This is Benue too.
Oh,
this is Doma.
Okay.
Yes,
this is Steve.
This is Steve.
Okay.
So you ought to have the unity cup of Benue. The Igede Doma.
I wasn't in on the memo. That's why.
All right. Interesting. It's good that you're solidarizing with. I mean, it's good to show that solidarity. with the Benue people. They need all of the solidarity they can get at this time.
In fact, everywhere.
Well, everywhere. The Vice President was there yesterday, and it was good to also see him adorn the popular black and white. And that was the motivation for me this morning. This morning. Welcome again. It's good to have you join us in this new year. We'll begin with what appears to be on every front page this morning, and that's the Edu Gate. I'm not sure whether it's just the Edu Gate or we have to put the Sadia.
I think it's the humanitarian affairs saga now.
Or the humanitarian gate.
You call them the many gates.
All right. Yesterday was the turn of bank CEOs, and it doesn't appear like we have seen the last of this. It's like every day they spill. We get to invite more people. But what's important for me is, what do you make of all of the revelations that we have seen coming out of the humanitarian agency? It does appear that from the word go, that place was set up for sleaze. What's your perspective?
Now, before I reach to that level, let us look at why was it that the place was rather asleep? When you're talking of Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, they ought to have been unraveling many of these things. Some humongous amounts are coming in. They are going out. And nobody is saying anything in big chunk. What is their job? What is their mandate? Theirs is to alert the EFCC that this is what is happening.
By estimation, you are saying this is already a failure.
Honestly, they ought to have. However, now that we are seeing it today, it should be a continuous thing. Whether the banks are saying it's just a mere handshake. Well, did you go there voluntarily? If you were summoned and you went, something went wrong. And if Betta Edu, some will say better education. If you had to receive that money, wait, how many are we in Nigeria? Some, how many millions?
200 plus.
220. Now we're having 585 million, 0.1 something. You are shipping to go and give the vulnerable as palliative. Each person will take 20,000 naira. I don't understand the arithmetic. Now, if you were to share this 585 million to Nigerians who are 200 and something, how much will one Nigeria go home with?
I think from the documents we've seen, it was just targeted at, I think, three or four states.
Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Ogun State.
Right.
Yes. Then Cross Rivers, four. Now, if that was meant for just those states, if you were able to give them the money, just cash take, how much would one person go home with? I think there is big deceit that, like the president is saying, EFCC, look, do a holistic kind of investigation of this palliative ministry. We cannot have a situation where some people will say, look, during COVID-19, students were not in school. You said you were feeding them. Okay, they were at home. You said you were taking the money and taking palliatives to various homes. Where was that? Today, I hope somebody will not say, okay, we usually provide every time people go to their houses to sleep, so that you now catch them at home. It's such a situation that it's becoming so much a laughable thing that this is what is happening in Nigeria. I think it shouldn't be. And for the banks, why is it that they will always not report these things? If money is being given to you to keep, it is given to you in trust.
But I think we need to clear this. I think they told us that once you do a transaction beyond 2 million, it automatically flags up.
Yeah, the EFCC, just like what you have with the IRS. Yes.
Well, you see, wait, these laws are just there. They are supposed to be implemented. If you want to catch, to escape with some drugs at the airport, the point the candidate is supposed to pass, or the carrier is supposed to pass, and you switch off the machine and it passes, it's human. If you say, okay, we're going to use the sniffer dogs, now that guy in so cap is coming, Can you see him? Okay, can you take that dog away? Take him to the opposite direction. And then the guy comes and passes. So, yes, if you go to the bank, they say, if our EFCC is warning that if you are withdrawing this, we're going to take your report to EFCC. If you are depositing this, you are depositing this, we're going to also do same. But what has happened that this kind of money, Sadia, we're talking about how much? 3.7 billion?
37 billion.
37 billion.
Anyway, at this point, they're just allegations, right? And we're supposed to work with the principle that they're innocent until they're proven guilty, right? But what does this signpost? As Sunday said, I mean, it looks like the ministry was set up from the first point to be like a cash cow where, you know, it's been looted every year, you know, when there's a budget for it, because there's always going to be a need to take care of Nigerians on this humanitarian level. But what is your takeaway from the president's reaction to this development? Because for the most part, I mean, the last time someone this high-ranking was in a mess recently was, I think, the Babachirilo, you know, situation with the grass cutting, for instance.
And that took forever.
And it took a while. In fact, it took the absence of the president for him to be suspended from office, and then thereafter, you know, he was eventually moved and things like that. Do you think that, you know, we've seen some good enough signs that suggest that justice will be done, whether it's to find them guilty or to find them innocent, as the case may be? Now,
you see, some Nigerians have already started comparing Tinubu and Buhari and when it comes to the fight, and rightly so, as you're saying. Now, when Buhari came, he said, if we don't fight corruption, corruption will kill Nigeria. Now, Tinubu came in, you realize that some media organizations were accusing him. This man is not talking about fighting corruption at all. Now, maybe he wants to do the work. Let me fight it rather than talk about it. And that is why you're seeing people so close to him. And now they're saying the Minister of Interior, the company was a kind of...
it
was fingered, exactly. And the guy came in to say, okay, yes, I was the director in the company. It's run by my wife. I know that. Now, when it comes to what is called politically exposed persons, it is a serious matter politically. It's a serious matter handling public funds. And, of course, you've thrown the ring, your heart in the ring, as it's always said. The moment you are there, people will scrutinize you. So the steps taken by the president, they are, in fact, laudable, they are good, they signpost the fact that Nigeria can go in and fight corruption. And we are also saying that when I say we, I mean Nigerians who indeed love the fight against corruption. We love the fact that he is looking inwards first. They are members of his cabinet, and therefore it does not matter whose cow is God. I mean, it does not matter who is in charge. It does not matter who is very close to. Have you done it? Did you plan to do it? Were there connivance? Was there a kind of some people trying to come together to seize money that belongs to the public? So these are things the panel will look out for. When the Minister of Information actually came out and said this was going to be looked at by the president holistically, some people just said, no, it's the usual statement by by ministers of information as usual. But within how many hours the president came in with his hammer, suspend her, investigate this, EFCC, take over, and EFCC is doing its job. Okay. And now we're seeing these bank executives going in. It also gives the banks the idea that, look, this money we are holding in custody on behalf of government, on behalf of depositors, something can happen, and as already they have been invited. They should not treat it with some kid gloves and say, no, it was just a routine visit. Have you been going for that kind of routine visit?
Okay. Switching gears now, let's talk about that cut, that 60% cut of the president's entourage, the vice president's entourage, the wife of the president. And basically, the president is saying, listen, I've listened to Nigerians. They want to see us also make sacrifices. What are your thoughts about that? Good enough, 60%? Of something we don't know. Anyway, we don't know what the number is, but we know it was surely large.
For him to have started again, it is still part of this corruption. You know, corruption is not just about stealing money. There was a time we were hearing that time that each time a president that time was to travel, some people seize the opportunity, get passports of various friends, and they put them as members of the entourage of the president, all for them, so that they'll just get a visa easily. So we were hearing all of this. Now, if we are saying, or we are hearing that the president is saying, look, we've reduced all of this by 60%, I mean, let's start somewhere. Not to start at all is the problem. So it could be a drop in the ocean, but somewhere along the line,
it's a drop nonetheless.
You know, it's I mean, they said a journey of 1 million miles must start with a step. So I mean, I started with a step from my house to come in here. If I just say, oh, there is still time, okay, there's still time, and I don't come. So it's good a thing that the president has started, and the momentum should be there. All the agencies that are there should just assist the president. When Buhari came into power, people said, oh boy, remembering war against indiscipline. Why? Against that time when he was a military head of state. This man is coming, Nigeria will be good. People sat and were waiting to see direction. They didn't see any direction. And that's why some people will just go hire aeroplanes, paint them, land them in Nigeria, they get the usual bath with a shower, and they disappear. And you get all sorts of corruption. I mean, look at the story of this Sadia, of a woman when she was minister. I mean, all sorts of complaints. And nobody was called to account for anything.
All right.
So if the president has started, it's good omen.
Yes, we are going to be keeping tabs. It's not enough to make this policy pronouncement. We want to see them reflect. And I'm sure it will not be too long until the president sets sail on another journey. And perhaps from the optics, we'll be able to tell how big or small this 60% cut would appear to be. Moving on to other stories, we saw, or rather, we have been witness to claims and counterclaims about the president releasing a huge amount of money to the National Assembly as palliatives for their constituencies. Some have shared. Some are claiming ignorance of that directive. The president's men insist that actually these provisions have been made. The Agri Ministry is saying we are not in charge of any rice palliative. Who are we to believe?
Well, we are supposed to believe those who are honest. But so far, it's like honesty has traveled a bit. Where is it so? If someone came out and said, look, these are two trailer loads of rice the president has given to each lawmaker at the House of Reps. My constituents, this is what belongs to you. And he was doing with pride, not knowing that it's going to be injurious to some people. Some people are now saying, no, okay, we've not, wait, I've not received is different from it's a lie. So it means yours is probably coming, all the same. And if the House of Reps members will get maybe 2 trailers, maybe senators will get 3 trailers. You know, they claim they are senior members of the National Assembly. Exactly, even though they are few.
Keyword,
but in all of them,
keyword maybe. Keyword.
You know, now, but when you even look at it, the budget itself of the National Assembly, was it Daily Trust that did some analysis and said what the National Assembly would take as lawmakers, House of Reps, Senate, combine them, then the workers. You now compare that with how many universities we have in this country.
Okay.
The figure has just, it's just no comparison.
Okay.
That of the National Assembly is so high, then you look at the university community. Virtually one university, let's say like ABU, is more than the population of the National Assembly, the lawmakers and the workers.
Maybe the students and the lecturers were not voted in.
Exactly. But anyway, we get the point, and the gist of it all is that there needs to be equity in terms of distributing the limited resources we have to attend to all of these myriads of challenges facing Nigeria and indeed Nigerians. But unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it here for now, Mr. Ben Sherman. Thank you so much, as always, for your insight, the analogies. Really appreciate them, and thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me as well. always.
solidarity as well.
Yeah,
Okay. Benue, food
I see
basket of the
that has
nation.
resonated well with Sunday Michael this morning. Okay,